Thank you, Adi. Thank you, Mark. And thank you to Anne and Viola McGinnis for your support of our sit here. And thank you to everybody here for creating this community. So, Adi, can you go ahead and put up my slide there? Great. Thanks so much. So this week we're working with Parshat Re'eh. And it begins with that word Re'eh. Re'eh anochi noten lifnechem hayom bracha uklala. See, Re'eh, I set before you today blessing and curse. Et habracha asher tishma'u. So I put in pink, cleverly highlighted in pink, the words that we're going to focus on today. Tishma'u el mitzvot Adonai Elohechem, asher anochi mitzaveh etchem hayom. The blessing when you heed, that's that word tishma'u, the command of the Lord your God with which I charge you today. And can we go one more further, please? V'haklala im lo tishma'u. The curse, if you heed not, if you don't listen. El mitzvot Adonai Elohechem, v'sartem min haderech, and you swerve from the way. And if we can go down one more, great, thank you. So we're going to stay here for a while because I wanted to pull out these words from this phrase, see this day I set before you, blessing and curse. And our commentator Ibn Ezra notices that Re'eh, this version of Re'eh, is singular, and lifnechem, before you, is plural. And so he comments that Moses, who is saying these words, is addressing each individual. Well, Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, the Kotzker Rebbe, and I learned this through Jonathan Slater's translation as he, in his Kol Simcha series, Menachem Mendel of Kotsk says, the commentators have noted that this verse begins addressing an individual, the singular, and concludes in the plural. And yet the Kotzker says, but that's not new because we already know the Torah was given equally to every Jew. So what's up here? And he says his insight is that our ability to receive, reflect, our way of seeing the Torah is actually according to our individual and unique spiritual state. And so for each individual Jew, the word see has a different significance, what it means. So I've been thinking about that, and this is what I think this verse can offer us for our mindfulness practice. So Re'eh, I said, is in Sivui, the command form. And I think that if I look at it that way, it is asking for an action. And the action is for me to bring my attention to something set before me. Bring the attention to this moment, to an anchor of attention. For instance, my breath or the feeling of my feet on the ground. And to bring it over and over and over. Re'eh, see. And we use this process of see. Don't see, see. Don't see, see. Coming back over and over again as a way to calm and stabilize the mind. So instead of following what is going on in the discursive mind, going from thought to thought to thought to thought, see. Come back, see. We can build upon what Ibn Ezra has pointed out here and feel addressed as an individual. See, bring my attention here to this moment. And then I move on to this word tishma'u, which in the translation we had before was heed, but it's also listen, hear, obey, attend to. When we're listening, we're ready to take something in. When we're really listening, not just putting our face in a general direction, or having the physical posture as if but if we're really listening, then we're ready to take something in. Listening is a receptive state. Listening is what we can do with that more calm and stabilized mind. So the attention that is brought present when I see can then listen. And building upon what the Kotzker says about each person starting from our own individual and unique spiritual state, the Kotzker accepts that each person, that we have to start from there. We can only start from where we're at. And I'm paraphrasing now what Jonathan Slater taught in that Kol Simcha series. And he says that the Kotzker demands that we know precisely what that spiritual state is without delusion. And that much of the Kotzker's teaching is directed to the myriad ways in which we deceive ourselves in order to avoid our delusions, our self-deceptions. So with listening, with Tishma'u, we're receptive to the contents and processes of our own minds. And when we listen, then we can see that plural, the lifnechem, before them, the plural. And that is all the parts of me, all the parts of you. We can see them arise and dissipate. I can see the angry me, the tired me, the annoyed me, the well-rested me, the enthusiastic me, the well-loved me. This plural lifnechem invites the internal investigation of all our bodily sensations, all our likes and dislikes, all our perceptions and thought patterns that come together to make me this human that I label as me. And the truth that all of those things are changing all the time. And what I call myself is not a single, solid, monolithic thing, but it's really made up of many things that arise and dissipate. They come forward, they go away. So one last word, I have sartem on then, so I'll put that. Swerving. Can we listen and see? Can we stand to see what is true about ourselves to the best of our ability, to not swerve away, to come back to that anchor? And then finally, there's an ani in there. See, I place before you this day blessing and curse. And the I is Moses speaking here. And Moses has been seen as personifying awareness in Israel. So when he is saying, see, I place before you, the I can be referring to awareness. So when we sit here bringing it together, we see, that is, we bring our attention to this moment over and over. We listen, tishma'u. We become receptive to the multiplicity, to all the sensations, to the nuance that we find. What is true in this moment? And the I, the awareness. That is awareness. It is awareness that places all of this before us. The verse continues, I place before you this day blessing and curse. Well, we can go a long way into that. It gets into mitzvot, and I'm going to keep it simple today and just say that much of what we do in this world contains the potential for both blessing and curse. And I'd like to say blessing if I become more aware of my own spiritual state, and that awareness leads to wiser choices. And curse, or as the Buddhists say, dukkha, or suffering, if I don't listen, if I swerve away from the truth of what is in this moment, and I don't begin to catch on to my own habits of mind and quirks. So let's go ahead and find, we can take the thing down. Thank you so much, Adi. Find your seat. Make any adjustments that you need to. Maybe move your upper body, your torso back and forth just a little bit until you find that place of balance, the place where you can just so easily sit upright, that the lower body is really supporting you, and it takes very little effort to sit upright. And we're finding any posture where we can both be relaxed and alert. So we can see, bring our attention right here. Perhaps bring it to the breath. To the inhale and the transition and the exhale and the transition and the inhale. Or you can bring it to the feeling of your feet on the ground, whichever anchor works for you. See. Bring your attention here. Nothing to do, nothing to create, nothing to fix. Just bringing our attention here and observing. Listen. As the mind begins to stabilize, as the attention begins to settle, as the mind settles in this place, in this time, become receptive. Bringing just enough energy to the feeling of the breath at the nostrils to keep that in the foreground, yet still receptive to all the sounds, sensations, thoughts in the background. And notice that it is awareness that places all this before us in this moment. See and listen. Re'eh tishme'u. And we'll continue silently together for the next 10 minutes. Re'eh anochi noten lifnechem hayom bracha uklala. Re'eh, see, bring your attention to what is set before you today, to what awareness brings before you today. Et bracha, and blessing, asher tishma'u, blessing when you listen, when we're receptive to what we find there. Thank you so much for sitting with me for this wonderful gathering. And I hand it over to Mark.
Thank you so much, Julie, as always, for clear, beautiful teaching on this week's Parsha. And friends, we are sealed our practice as we always do, and invite those of you who are here to stay present, and particularly for those who are in mourning, observing yard sites. And we invite those of you who are to share the name or names of anyone you're holding in your heart today, you're remembering, honoring, in the chat box, either now or after we recite Kaddish. And for those who are reciting Kaddish, I invite you to rise with me in body or in spirit. And for those who are not, to extend your practice by being present for those who are, by bringing your compassionate presence and support to this community. Yitkadal, Shemei Rabbah, Yama, Ach, Yalich Malchutei, Chayechon, Yomechon, Uvchayei Tchol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Bizman Karim, Nimru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah, Olam Lamei Amaya. Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitalal, Shmei, Kusha, Brichu, La'ela, Kol Birchata, B'Shirata, Tushkachata, V'Nechemata, Da'amiram, Yoma, Nimru, Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba, Mishmaya, V'Chaim, Aleinu, Kol Yisrael, Nimru, Amen. Says Shalom B'Rama, Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'Yom Kol Yisrael, V'Yom Kol Yishbei Tovel, Nimru, Amen.
Amen.
Israel v'Imru, Amen.
I want to thank our teacher for today, Cantor Julie Newman of the Teeperik Project in Pittsburgh, once again for leading us so beautifully, and our sponsor, Ann McGinnis, for sponsoring our practice in loving memory of your grandmothers, Catherine Sisson and Viola McGinnis. Zichronan Livracha, may their memories be a blessing. And thank Adi Stein, as always, for holding our space with grace and with skill. And Adi is going to be away for the next 10 days or so, visiting in Israel. I want to wish Adi Nisia Tova, a safe trip to and from Israel, and a meaningful time while you're there, Adi. And we will miss you, but are so glad that you'll have this opportunity to be with your family in Israel. For those who are able, of course, as always, you're welcome to stay on for some conversation with Cantor Julie Newman about today's teaching and the practice, and just to reflect on that. For those who are leaving us, we hope you can join us tomorrow to sit into Shabbat, as we always do on Fridays. We'll be led tomorrow by a teacher who's new to our wonderful array of Jewish mindfulness meditation teachers, Kimberly Duenas, who will be leading us in practice tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern. We hope to see you then. And of course, we really hope to see all of you as we dive into the Shofar project beginning next Monday. So if you haven't, sign up so that you can get the framing email for the first week on Sunday. And we'll see you on Monday to begin the month of Elul together. So, Julie, that was just great, as always. And I don't know how you feel about it, but when you have become immersed in Jewish mindfulness practice for a while, all of a sudden, and that you have that lens, and you look at the Torah and you say, "Oh my God, it's everywhere," right? It's the whole Torah. So, and this was just another beautiful example of that right at the beginning of the weekly parsha. Just to, I guess, as you know, I like to kind of recapitulate the teaching in my own words, just to see if we can reinforce that, and then maybe explore how we bring it into the rest of the day and rest of our lives. So, the first word of the parsha, the name of the parsha, see, to just look clearly, open the lens wide, right? And that, and then the, in what can be a challenging passage, of blessing and curse, right? You'll be blessed if this, and you'll be cursed if that. In this case, it's applying it as you were describing it to, blessing follows from, is really, blessing really is related to our capacity to, as you said, tishma'un, right? To really witness the truth of what is present. And that conversely, and maybe we can talk about this a little bit, because klala, curse, is it's a pretty darn strong word there, that may not land so well with a lot of people. But it is, the issue with it, let's put it this way, the issue we run into is our aversion, and as you said, swerving away, turning aside from, it says, from the derech, from the way, and then we come back. So, first of all, just want to make sure I'm reflecting back accurately the teaching. It sounds like I am. So what do you think about that? How do we, without denying what can be problematic about this kind of black and white, I think what people feel like, oh, this is good, you're either blessed or you're cursed, like it's very quite binary in that way. But any thoughts about how to either smooth the rough edges of that, or just how to deal with that?
Well, as I started out today, I told you I didn't want to go on and talk too long. I wanted to give us a full 10 minutes of this thing that I like, sit, see, bring your attention here and listen. I wanted to give us
Mhm.
a full 10 minutes. And so I didn't go into the blessing and curse because it is complicated. So I offered one part of it. It's like, well, if you see, then you blessing is available, and if you don't see, that's a way of being caught in dissatisfaction and unwise behavior and stuck in habits and ruts and ruminations. But there's also another way of looking at that, and that is that in everything we do, there is potential for both blessing and curse. It's all there, and that maybe I don't know. We could look at the verses again. Maybe it's not really saying the binary, but the both and that. Let's see. I was going to share something here. What I was reading from. Yeah, just the both and. We can look at them individually, but that there's the potential for both in any action. In putting my glasses on and taking my glasses off, there's the potential for blessing. I can see better. But there's also the potential for, oh my gosh, I'm getting all that reflection. This is probably too much information, um, but in the smallest action, there's both of that. And can I stand to know that and be happy? Or can I only be happy if things are some sort of perfect? Like, is there only one specific set of circumstances in which I can be happy? If everything is exactly right, then I can be happy. That means I'm not going to be happy very much. And so I think what I'm getting out of these verses is to cultivate my ability to see both the blessing and the curse in every action, and to be open to both of it, to all of it, to be able to stand to see it.
Yeah, I can't tell if the chat is working now, and I got, people can tell I'm having some technical issues myself today, but
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the chat.
Okay, that's pretty strange. But maybe you can say a little bit more, Julie, also about this idea of swerving. Maybe from, I don't know if you're willing to talk about from your own experience. Like, how do you know? How do you know when you're swerving?
Oh, um, so I had this insight a while back, and this is how it works for me. My habits of mind, my delusions are smooth. They're so smooth because it's a habit. That rut has been worked smooth. The rut that says, oh, these people are like that. Those people are like that. I am like this. This situation is like this. That is so ready to slap a label on how things are. That is very smooth. When I wake up, it's actually, there's more friction. When I wake up, it's bumpier, which is kind of counterintuitive. We have this idea, oh, I'm going to meditate and I'm going to like sit and it's going to be blissful and it's going to be smooth and relaxed and all of that. But what I find out that when I pay attention to the contents of my own mind, it's the delusions that are smooth, and it is the awakenings that are a little more bumpy.
Hmm. Hmm. There's a question that puts you a little bit on the spot here. I don't know if you saw this, but I think from Lori about whether there is a nigun or a chant that
Yeah,
Cantor that comes to mind that
yeah,
you think
yeah.
might be helpful here.
There is. Let's see if I can remember it. Um, let's see. I think it's here. Okay. He nanny, 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 he nanny. Bechol dracheha da'ehu, vehu yashem orchotecha. So that verse is Proverbs, I think 3:6. Bechol drachecha da'ehu. In all your ways, let me know you. So it's about that seeing and listening. And
Mhm.
then the hineni is, okay, here I am. See, bring that attention here. Bring that attention here. That's the first one that came to mind.
I remember that one. That's a great one. That's a great one. Um, it's also wonderful because, of course, this passage that you were teaching on is about staying on or straying from the derech, and it's basically this introduces a different idea, a new idea also about um, in all your drachim, in all your ways, know God. In other words, uh, maybe there's a little bit of a paradox at work here, which is there is this idea of staying on the derech of paying attention and being present, right?
Right,
And then we lose that. So that's true. And
right.
then on the other hand, we have this other, like I'm thinking about the burning bush, where the same term is used, where Moses does turn from his derech. He's going on his way, but he actually, the blessing for him is his vision, his field of vision is wider than what's right in front of him, and he sees something in the maybe in the peripheral vision and turns aside, literally same verb, turns away to look at something, right?
Yeah.
So I know that really raises an interesting question, right?
That to me, that goes right back to my smooth and bumpy.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Where he's noticing, like, I am on the smooth road. The smooth road is the one that everybody walks by. Okay, the assumption is if there is fire in that bush, it is burning like a normal burning bush.
Mm-hmm.
But the bumpy is to, there's got to be a better word for it than that. But the waking up in the moment is like, oh, wait, let me get really interested in that. And that's what we do with that see, bring that attention here. Let's get really interested in the whole dynamic of the breath. Let me watch the inhale
Mm-hmm.
and the transition and the exhale and wait. Let me get really interested in that. And then, as the Buddhists say, not knowing is most intimate. So when we set aside our assumptions, so that we can see what is really there, and that's that tishma'u, that receptivity. What is really here? Our teacher, Rabbi Nancy Flam, commented one time that there's nothing worse than a good sit. And what she meant is that we have this sit that's maybe kind of blissful and really, how wonderful. And that every other sit, we're trying to get back to that
Mm-hmm.
rather than seeing what is actually here.
Right.
So I actually think, Mark, that's a great connection of that sartem, that sar, that swerving. And can I tell which track is my mind on? Is it
Mm-hmm.
receptive, or am I just going down the regular path?
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe also, in the case of Moses in the bush, there's an attraction. He's swerving out of being alert to something that is calling for attention, whereas the other kind of swerving can be like out of aversion. I mean, that could be also obviously swerving is something, it's there's some self-preservation there too, right?
Yeah.
So, but there might be a distinction between swerving out of aversion and swerving out of attraction to something that is calling for attention. Maybe they both are. Anyway, it was occurring to me that your bumpy road could be a rocky road,
Yeah.
which is also an excellent ice cream flavor,
Yes.
you know, just
And
to keep it seasonal here.
and to know that just because, I'm getting something positive out of this rocky road doesn't mean I have to go to the rockiest road.
Mm-hmm.
I get to stay in my window of tolerance as I am learning to stand to be with the truth doesn't mean I have to be with the hardest thing ever all the time. I could just let me explore around the edges, at the
Mm-hmm.
edges of where I am, and therefore give myself enough space to actually look. I don't know about you, but I can't do scary movies. I can't watch. I can't watch.
Mm-hmm.
It is beyond my window of tolerance. But let me in my life be able to be where I feel stable enough to actually see, to actually be receptive. If somebody is like forcing you to learn how to swim by dropping you in, you're not going to be receptive to, you know, figuring it out and how to do it. Let me be in a situation where I feel safe enough, stable enough, that calm, stable, serene mind that we can attain by coming back to an anchor over and over and over, letting the thoughts settle down. And then when we achieve some level, not perfect, but some level of calmness and stability, what do we do with that? That's the tishma'u, that's the listen. That's when I can see what's going on and when I can stand to see what's going on.
We're at time. I want to thank you again, Julie. Apologize also for I don't know what's going on with the chat function, but I got some questions towards ID. Anyway, Julie, thank you so much, as always, for leading us. We'll look forward to your teaching during the Shofar Project. And thanks, Ann McGinnis, for sponsoring our practice today. Adi, Nasiya Tova, safe trip to Israel. We'll see you when you're back. And for everyone else, we hope to see you tomorrow to sit into Shabbat with Kimberly Duenas, 12:30 Eastern Time, and to see you during the Shofar Project beginning